Bum, ba-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. Introduce the show, Wind. I'll be right back.
Hello.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Sue's perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana, Coke Boys, ooh, we run the city. Homie tryna keep up, ooh, they going broke. I'll finish your career, ooh, get a rope.
Warning, 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 warning.
Dope money, ooh,
That Montega,
in the spot, getting guap, ooh,
that's hard labor.
in the club, popping bottles,
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
hand for the real niggas.
Rest of these niggas cowards.
How you want it?
How you want it?
Hands, gun, or the knife.
Soon as your man see the barrel,
He gon' run for his life,
bullets flying.
bullets flying.
Good evening, YouTube, MGTOW, Red Pill, and people outside of the manosphere. I would like to welcome you to another section of Bleeding Edge Red Pill. Today's topics are gender studies and modern technology. Oh yeah, yeah. And that's a bad thing. Why? And that's a bad thing. How? When you
Avert your
Ooh.
eyes. Avert your eyes.
avert your eyes. Yeah, that's a bad
So,
thing. How?
how are you boys doing?
Hey, yeah, welcome. I am here, Billy and Yam, and then we got Billy the Go Kart
Good.
riding on through.
I'm liking the energy coming in here today. Nice one, Win.
Hey, I should
Let's
like
get
to
hype.
stir in the pot.
Supercharged.
Let's get real hype.
Let's
Hold on, I'm
let's
gonna-
get real hype. Let's we gonna get real hype here. We gonna get real hype here. We gonna get real crazy.
Well,
Fire,
it's
fire.
like it's usually you're really cautious because you're like it's almost like surgery, right? You're trying to go in, you're trying to find the objective, and you're trying to like remove it as fast as possible. But sometimes it's hype for no reason at all.
It's
And
like performing. It's like
also-
performing reassignment surgery blindfolded.
Also, it's important to be like cautious even when you're in a good position because there's such thing as a Pyrrhic victory where winning can be kind of sometimes too costly and can leave you exposed for a counterattack. And we don't want to get attacked most of the time. You know, unless we're prepared, unless we're dug in, and I think we're pretty nice and dug in. I think we're ready.
Yeah.
I did
All
send the Lone Wolf ACR a invite, so he could, if he sees it, he should come by. But yeah, I want to say hi to everybody that's probably watching, or maybe catching this on the playback. And go ahead and subscribe. I think a lot of the people that watch this are not subscribed, but yes, but it would be nice if you were subscribed because then you can pay attention to these in succession. You can watch them and absorb all of the information that we give because we do give a lot of information.
Yeah.
Kind of like
wow.
dropping it on a big cinder block. Well, I like the thumbnail that you picked. When though, why? Is that a rocket or something? Is that am I?
Yeah, that's one of the stages of the I think with the Apollo rockets.
Well, nice. That actually fit. That actually. Wait, you said intentions in the description box. Let me change that. That actually goes right into the. That's a good, perfect thumbnail for the topics because our topics today are gender studies and modern inventions. Modern inventions, and I'm not just talking physical inventions like a loom or something, or the spindle that Rumpelstiltskin uses to create gold out of it, whatever. I'm talking about all kinds of inventions, ideological inventions, inventions of paranoia, of stress, of things that we just come up with in order to cope with these things that we experience that or hardly experience.
The red pill invention. Ooh.
The red pill invention, the invention of the red pill. We're going to go over that too, because it's interesting, right? Like how decadent society has become, to the point where we aren't even we're making history but not experiencing it. Like I could think of I could think of so many people that are just basically drinking port wine and in a castle in their own head. Like I've even become reclusive. There's so many reclusive perspectives in the world happening at once.
We once went from a culture that regularly explored space to what I don't know what this is called, honestly.
We went from world exploring to world building.
To world building.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even building anything. We're not building anything. We're literally at a plateau of society. We're at a plateau.
Well, it's a psychological kind of non-tangible make-believe utopia that they're building. So it's a private, personalized world. Each and every person has their own universe inside their skull, which they're trying to project outwards onto everyone else.
Well, one thing I've realized about world building is it gets really stale. It gets old. Like, if the initial stages of building a world is like really fun and kind of like, it's like when you look at intercultural communication, there's like culture shock where people go to a new place, and like for the first 6 months, it's like pure euphoria. It's like every single experience is new. But up until past a certain point, you just start getting disenchanted from everything.
Well,
and
yeah. So what happens? Sorry, am I cutting you off?
No, go ahead.
So when world building, when the person is the god of that world, the creator, then anything goes. They make up the rules, right? So anything is plausible. Whether it's a good world or a bad world, maybe they're a bit pessimistic and they want to see everything in a cynical kind of way. Either way, they're in absolute control. They get to dictate what happens. The problem with that is then meaning becomes lost. There is no more any meaning. There's no disappointment, as it were. It's not like this person wanted to exercise their control and some way was denied. So they basically got as they pleaded, as they wish, without any challenge or anything like that. I mean, there might be challenges, but they quickly, bat them away and deny it and say, "No, you're the crazy one," or whatever. What I say goes. At least in my world, it does.
Hemisphere, right? I mean, a lot of people have done that. They've like hit the proverbial fast forward button on life from the point that they feel like they've taken the red pill. And in a lot of ways, like there's that movie Click with Adam Sandler where he wants that remote so badly to control his life and be able to manipulate time that he ends up meeting Angel. Like kind of like such a fascination with controlling life that it became something that was detrimental to his own life. Yeah. I think that's like a lot of people, they say like they may feel like they're so, like I said, disenchanted from the falling in love process, the infatuation, the honeymoon phase and stuff. They just want to like hit the fast forward button on all of that and skip it.
So to go deeper then, so what's the need? Why is there a desire for absolute control? this will most likely be a coping strategy for a fear of being vulnerable. They don't want to be vulnerable, so they need control. So it's a sense of security. And the idea being, if I control everything, I can construct the whole universe and the world. Then I'm in that sort of master position. And in their mind, they think that this is a good place to be, like they're safe and they can feel secure. But the trouble there is, you don't allow yourself to have any risk or to be vulnerable, which
Everybody,
means you stop living, because life is inherently full of risk and full of vulnerabilities, and it's about being able to sort of face these challenges and deal with them. But if you can't deal with them, then this is why they try to construct their own world, because they can't deal with them. So there's a consequence. It's like, okay, fine, you can become the master of the world, you can become God, you can create a universe, but it comes at a cost. The cost is you stop living, you stop having meaning, you stop having a sense of self fundamentally, and any value structure. There is no good or bad and things like that. So it just becomes this a bit like a malaise in a way. But
you know what propels humanity forward to advance not only the science and technology, and in some cases medical. I said some cases medical, and I use the term medical very loosely. The fact is the fact of the matter is that deep down inside, human beings, we are afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of the unknown, which is another one is death. We're afraid of death. We're afraid of the unknown. So with the fact is being of knowing that once we die, we will be forgotten. Our goal in life is to be remembered for as long as we can after we pass. That is what caused the advancements in technology. That is what caused the space race. That is what caused all these jumps forwards in computer technology. That is how we went from Nixie tubes to computer chips to microchips and beyond.
Yeah, well, that's what you told me too. You also told me that you could. Sorry, what are you gonna finish? Were you still talking?
No, you're good.
I was like, you were telling me you could win every battle and still lose.
Exactly.
Right. So it's just like Rifle said it before on the last podcast that we're a victim of our own success in America, but I would also argue in educated or in sort of in circles where people believe that they are self-aware, or desire to be self-aware, desire to be healthy, desire these things, not necessarily being okay with being average, being normal, something that we talk about on the Bleeding Edge all the time, which is a fundamental problem in our ability to set realistic goals, because we can't prevent our own demise, despite like everything that we do to try to prevent that, in terms of like our health and in terms of our ability to, I guess, foresee a problem before it happens, or not necessarily that, come up with a solution while in the middle of a problem, is more of mankind's journey, like the grit, like the feeling of wow, I can't believe I got away with that, like that was such a huge risk, and it sort of paid off. Or
we gamble with a high risk gamble, high reward.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's
how we ended. Sorry.
You ask most people what their goals are or what they would like to accomplish. There's so very little risk involved in all of these things. No matter what you tell me, it's always the same story. They want to be healthy and they want to be aware of themselves, as if this is like an end in and of itself. Like the fact that they are moderately, I mean, because that's in order, in order to experience life to its fullest, you kind of have to sacrifice some of those two parameters of your life primarily. If you want to learn something, you're going to have to study it like if you get to learn a language, you might have to write and if you want to learn an instrument, you might need to play until your fingers bleed. You know, you might need to just in order to like develop a proficiency that you're like satisfied with. But
I got a question.
most people build this self-awareness or this healthy mindedness to where they're like, I don't want to go that far. You know, I just would rather be average at
There's
X, Y.
several
I got a
lessons.
question. I got
Go
a
ahead.
question. What do you want to be? Self-aware or healthy?
I mean, do I have to choose one? I mean, I would rather be, I guess, more health conscious than self-conscious. Those things are mutually exclusive.
I wouldn't want to be neither. I don't want to be neither.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't want to
being
be neither.
of either of those things I feel like it just creates stress in somebody that isn't like completely lazy. You know, if you have a shred of work ethic, then being aware of yourself and being aware of like your overall health, it just stresses you out. It'll always be better.
I think
What I'm saying, the reason I'm asking this, if you're healthy, that means that you can I'm going by this society. That means that you can be used a lot longer.
But so
If
you're saying
self-aware,
power in this society, like health is like like you serve society by being healthy.
yes, you can be used a lot longer. If you're self-aware, you know that you're being used.
Okay, let Billy go.
So,
but part of that health could include being self-aware. I think a balance is generally a safer play to take or stance to take. You know, it's good to be somewhat healthy and it's good to be somewhat aware. To what extent, you know, is another question. But just to go back a little bit, you guys are covering quite a few different pretty profound lessons. I'm trying to recap like what they are now. So one is the pursuit of happiness. Like the more you try and pursue it, the more discontent one would feel. So that brings in the question of like, so at what point do we say enough is enough? Like how much technological advancements do we need to have before we can say, you know what, we don't, you know, we're good. We can just be content.
we've had too much. We got too much. We got to slow down and let everybody else catch up.
Right. Or do we necessarily need all these luxury, like automation, for example? Look how it's kind of like be careful what you ask for, because on the surface or initially it sounds like a good idea. Yeah, machines make life easier, tools make life easier, but look at the kind of price that we're going to pay in the end, where it's like, hang on, I'm now made redundant because a machine can do everything I can do and better. So this brings into another lesson of dang it just slipped my mind.
Like we're gonna pay it.
You're mentioning the pursuit of happiness. I was relating that to like peacefulness. Like a lot of men want to avoid relationships because they don't view them as very peaceful accords. You know, they want to escape into you know, just away from that whole debacle that they see as like what everyone thinks they need in order to be happy, but they would rather pursue peace. But what's the problem is tech is not designed, it doesn't propel us forward anymore. It puts us back. Well, it does that because mentally we're not, in order to achieve peace, you have to be actively pursuing a direction. Like the reason why wars are fought is because populations don't migrate and they stay stagnant and they expand and they become oversaturated, they become encumbered by their own, you know, their own population.
I remembered what it was I was going to say.
I'm gonna need y'all to hold down the fort for a second.
Okay.
Because my phone's about to die pretty soon.
So plug it in, mate.
Great prep work, I mean, a great prep.
So the other trouble that we end up encountering, especially with this accelerated pace of so-called advancements and improvements, is we take things for granted. So as a cost to taking things for granted, we lose that appreciation. We don't understand what it means to struggle anymore. We don't understand what hardship means anymore. That leads off into another direction in a second. Hold on. But without having any strife or challenge, like you say, with like learning an instrument or any kind of skill, without understanding what was sacrifice or the pains that it led up to these advancements, there's no appreciation. So we take things for granted. So it's like a spoiled culture where everything just magically is just is available and accessible with no real it hasn't been earned. No merit has been, no responsibility has been learned. So it easily gets taken for granted, becomes exploited, becomes abused. And as a result, the person fundamentally is abusing themselves in the process, or letting themselves down because they haven't had to do. It's like someone cheating in their schoolwork. They haven't actually learned how to do the working out for themselves. Someone else did it for them. What was that tangent? Everything is slipping my mind this evening. The tangent. What was I just saying about going off with a tangent?
You were talking about the pursuit, and you're saying how technology hasn't really done a lot in order to, we've been kind of just continuing to create
my brain's just a bit slow this evening. Yeah, so because there's a lack of strife and a lack of struggle, a lack of effort being put in to achieve whatever it is, people are now creating a fictional strife. And quite often it's the most privileged, the silver spoon fed people who start acting very victimized. As if like, you don't understand my struggles, you don't understand what I've had to go through. And it's like, yeah, well, what they're pointing
in order to I guess function, I guess, well, like what people's main problem is that they believe that they believe like they're too aware of what's controlling them, and it's not them. So they're puzzled, they're angry, they're upset, and their decision is to look for truth externally.
Well, so in some ways, it is their own doing. They are they're a victim of their own victimhood, or they're oppressed because they want to be oppressed. So they intentionally see things as if it's oppressing them or controlling them, but it's not quite true. It depends on what kind of sort of philosophical level you want to take it, but deep down, these problems, these so-called controls that are holding people down, oppressing them, are more emotionally based. They act upon people's own emotional insecurities and failures, and that's how they're able to be taken advantage of or manipulated in such a way. So really it comes down to that individual person's ability / desires / damage, wounds, traumas, whatever, their emotional insecurity, their need to feel comfort. I mean, in some ways, by pointing a finger at other, like, oh, society is working against me, or I'm being used by all these other groups of people.
Well, it's more
it's alibi.
Their education has taught them that it's never society that actually has done something to you. It's the way that you've been educated to view society. And in a lot of ways, we've been educated to view society as hostile and unforgiving and like almost like nature.
I mean, perhaps to some degree, but at what point do we ask the person, so where does your own self accountability come in? Where do you become responsible then? If you're aware that you realize society and you've been raised and you've been taught to be like this, then why is it you're spending your time bitching and complaining about it instead of doing something? So then the question becomes like, do you really want to improve your life, or would you prefer having something to blame for not improving your life?
Right.
And that's an honest question for someone to answer. Now, if they're in denial or it's too sensitive, they're going to be like, well, they're going to sort of deflect and twist it around and whatever. But it doesn't really change the situation or the core of what's going on. Is you've got a person here who apparently is going to be enlightened with awareness. They've worked it all out. They're very clever clogs for doing so, but they're hanging on to it as a barrier. Like, oh, well, I can't go forward in life because of my upbringing. It's like, right. And now what? So at what point are you going to, or are you ever going to like let that go? And can you even let it go? If you're saying that you've been raised in such a way, are you also saying that you weren't given the tools to be able to take care of yourself and go forward? So you're kind of in this stuck position where you realize what's going. Well, this is the thing. It's like on the one hand, they try and say they got awareness and enlightened, epiphanies and things like that, but they're not aware of their own sabotaging. And that's part of the denial is to hide it from the person, he or she themselves, so that they live in a lie. They tell themselves a lie that, oh, it's not me that's the problem, it's the institutions that brought me up. Well, that's the problem. Right. And I can't change it. I haven't got a time machine. I can't change that. So therefore I can't change myself, or I don't feel the need to change myself. So where does that leave me? It leaves me in a place where all I can do basically is just point the finger and blame and bitch about things, and defer or put off any attempts of trying to self-improve truly.
Or they pick and choose what type of self-improvement they want to participate in, which we're told is effective. Like we'll always say, oh, choose. If you're going to make, a decision to go, to the gym, for example, or to study something, like to study a particular point in history, you're encouraged to just go all the way and just do it. Like,
but how many people actually do that though properly? How many people? Because what I tend to notice is they'll say, right, I need to self-improve. So how do I self-improve? Well, I will study more about the institutions that oppressed me in the beginning, or the other ways that the system is holding me down. And it's like, but you already know that the system is holding you down. Like, how much more do you need to know how lucrative it is?
Yeah, it's almost like the realization is just a level in the video game of their life, and then as soon as they hit that realization, it's like almost like a reset button hits, and they just start the game from the
right. Yeah. So it becomes more comfortable. Obviously, it's more comfortable to look outside and point the finger and blame on something that you already kind of explored a little bit, than to now have to sort of truly introspect and be like, right, okay, I'm aware now that it doesn't really even matter to what extent I know that I'm being taken advantage of. Just the fact that I'm being taken advantage of by whatever systems and institutions is really all you need to know. You don't need to know the ins and outs of it.
Because if you can be taken because if you can be taken advantage of, there's so much information that is like latent in that realization. Like there's so much that you can, if you're in a position where you're being taken advantage of, then there's so many things that you could learn.
It's a never ending. Yeah, it's like the rabbit hole, never ending. You'll always find new ways and new things to make you feel more victimized. And this is the thing, when people enter that victimized mindset, that is what they're invested into it. So which is totally wrong, yeah, or unbeneficial. There's not a, or unless that is the whole point of it. That they don't. That's the kind of like the more fundamental. Like, do you actually want to do something with your life? Is your life? Do you have enough self-esteem and self-worth to realize that you need to do something for yourself to improve your life, or are you that shame-based and disgusted by who you are, like despised and zero self-esteem, and all this sort of stuff, that you disable yourself from ever having the potential to have what you claim you want, which is a good life. You want to be healthy, you want to be spiritual or enlightened or whatever it is, but you sabotage and you do it intentionally whilst using these victim arguments of oppression and taking advantage of abuse or whatever to deflect and distract you from doing what it is, So that's a choice. Do you want to grow up or do you want to remain a child? And most people, growing up is painful, like we were saying earlier. Like, if you want to achieve, you want to improve, it requires effort, it requires commitment, it requires dedication.
Most people like
that, or do you want it easy?
Most people like going to the circus to be entertained, but they don't like juggling life's responsibilities. They would rather watch somebody else do it and say, I didn't like the way that guy threw one air.
That adds an extra level of it, because so when you've got a victim person who is unable or intentionally not wanting to improve themselves, they become jealous of other people. So they're so disassociated from the inner self that they're constantly looking outwards. They're already showing this because they're already looking at places to blame. So then they start looking at other people to point their finger at, and it's like, I hate being me, I wish I was them. And they become envious and jealous of other people's success, and maybe they might try and pull them down, or maybe they might try to body swap with them or something like that, but they will use that as a additional fuel for their own victimhood. It's like, well, my life sucks because so and so out there is doing far better than me, so what's the point of me trying? It's like, well, that's a rotten attitude to have.
Yeah, like that's where I get disillusioned from a lot of the people, a lot of like contemporary philosopher type content creators, because it's like I view myself as average, but also but also like I have talent, I have skills, I have, as do other people. Maybe people don't realize what their talent or their skill is, but it's still like the how I view myself is not as better than anybody else. But I also, it's like, I don't like getting caught in a cycle of comparing myself to others, because that in that sense, whatever I consider, whatever I like, I still I'm positive about my own qualities, but once I start comparing myself, my positivity doesn't matter. It's about it's about how it measures, how my particular quality measures up to somebody else.
Here's one that will screw with people's perception a little bit. So I'll start off from a feminist angle because it's easier to see. So women today, on the whole, don't want to be women anymore, right? They want to be men. They want to be a woman is, in their mind, like a downgrade. It's being submissive, and to them, submissive means you're a slave. So a woman now, the new definition of a woman is someone who's meant to be stunning, brave, conquering the world, woke, whatever, the boss, and all this other stuff, right? So women don't like being women. And so basically this is a self-shame. They don't want to be who they are, they want to be something else. They want to be this superwoman. Now, what about men then? So do men no longer want to be men? Like, now I'm not saying that there are some, but what do you notice in what's that's being said in the men's culture is to be an alpha, to be a whatever, an ultra or a sigma or something like that, to not be a average Joe schmuck. That's we would call that a simp or a cuckold or something like that. So to be a regular man is frowned upon. There must be something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You
must
and
look.
the fact that the statistical, like just the likelihood that you're going to be taken advantage of as a man is like just like inevitable. It's a statistical inevitability.
Well,
at some point you're going to be used for something.
but
right.
Yeah.
see that is I hear what you're saying, and to some extent, yes, because but the higher man or the alpha, for example, just because he might be an alpha, doesn't mean he's not going to be taken advantage of any more than a regular man.
The thing is like what people don't, what not only men, not only women, but men. In history, some of the greatest achievements. Think about background, like everything. Think about everything that builds something, like all the things that are built up to create an object, an art piece, a painting. They either have some sort of background inspiration, or they have someone that was in the background that was supporting them, not so much financially, but emotionally, mentally.
Mhm.
They don't want they.
So,
The
with
thing about it,
example, it's like you kind of have women are kind of have been stranded, but not by men. It's just by themselves. They have left themselves stranded by refusing to accept who it is that they are and like their place in this world, not in like the world, like the real world, because it's all about culture. It's all about customs and cultural.
It's all about shame. They don't like who they are.
in
Both
history,
men and women.
throughout all cinematics and people have says, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my wife. I wouldn't be doing this. This wouldn't have became if it wasn't for my wife. This painting wouldn't exist because they have mentioned, so many people have mentioned so many women, so many wives, but it's just crazy, It's crazy that those were the humble ones, These people, these new generation, they're not humble. They don't understand anything about humility, That was, I mean, they're literally in now. Now they're in your face.
Before, when you were talking about prior experience, every man had prior experience. Like every classroom had a person who had some level of prior experience that compelled them to learn about a specific topic.
Exactly.
It wasn't just who they are that made the topic relevant to them. And what I see now, I mean, when I go through school, I mostly just see a bunch of people that like just they think that they can choose what they want to learn based on how they view, like based on like something having to do with society, like, oh, society needs doctors, society needs this, and they don't know what they need. And in that sense, they believe that like a specialized field, like a physicist or a chemist or something, is a lot more. It's a lot more easy for them to attain in their eyes than say like something like history or humanities or so.
But in reality, right? But in reality, society needs more plumbers, more electricians, more carpenters. They want to go for. They want to learn. They want to spend money to make big money.
Yeah,
but this is it comes back to that shame and the entitlement. because a plumber, no offense to plumbers, it's a very hard working job, and like Win is saying, it's a critical job. I mean, imagine having no plumbing. But the way that culture is now looking at it, it's being downgraded. It's like, oh, you're a plumber, oh, you're a schmuck kind of thing. Whereas like you should really be aiming for the stars and being a professor of astrophysics or something. I don't know. You should be a brain surgeon or something like that, which isn't fair, which isn't nice. But it's that skewed, distorted perception of is it even right reality? But it's status and value. It's totally out of sync with real world. I mean, obviously, there is nothing. There shouldn't be any difference really between a plumber or a brain surgeon. Both are vital positions and both are respectable positions. So why would one matter more than the other? But for someone who is like healthy minded, they would understand that,
Right.
or whatever. But for someone who's living in this suffocating world where everything is crashing down on them and they're frightened and they're scared and they've got so much shame, then the grandiosity and the entitlement that Baron was talking about, entitlement, kicks in. And this is where we see, well, if they're going to be the brain surgeon, they're going to have to be the best brain surgeon, because just a regular brain surgeon isn't good enough.
You've
So
got,
exaggeration.
you've got your hands tied because there's so many people that are brain surgeons.
In a way, it's
Right.
like regular.
So you've got someone who's from like a
almost think about it in terms of like an archetype. Like, which archetype would you rather play? Like, a really good brain surgeon is pretty much a superhero, and in that case is pigeonholed into a certain archetype. Like, you can't spend your time studying whatever it is that you want as the best surgeon ever, because your time is going, it's like having the best army ever. You're going to have to take, you're so revered that other people are going to want you and want to use you more, and like their desire for your skills are going to supersede your own free will at times, and it'd be more taxing to do that as opposed to just being a regular average brain surgeon, and being able to pursue like one shred, one aspect, one tiny thing. And who knows, like the person who's the best brain surgeon is forgotten, but the average brain surgeon or whatever whose works are well preserved, because
it's one thing to have ambition and like a motivation, like a desire, right? Okay, that aside, it's another thing to be ludicrous and delusional, where you got Jenny from the block who thinks she's the best. It's like, no, she hasn't even got any like elementary school grades or something like that. It's like, no, we were talking about earlier about how there needs to be a commitment. You need to be hardworking. You need to be on track. You can't just tomorrow be qualified a brain surgeon. And that's the same kind of thing that we see, I mentioned it earlier again as well, where privileged yet kind of a bit of a oxymoron, that they're privileged, but they're also at like a level of poverty quite often, where they feel oppressed, they feel victimized, they've had no one suffered more than them, and they deserve to have the position of brain surgeon, elite, alpha, super duper, whatever. So it's kind of like insanity basically, but they don't see this. They see the entitlement and the grandiosity, and the victim master dynamic, where if only the world knew my greatness and I have to suffer as a result. It's just like, whoa.
It's the lack of knowledge that brings on that perspective, right? Because how can a person believe that about themselves if they had knowledge that disproved that?
Self-inflated ego.
The thing is, in order to be great at something, you have to go out and do it. As I said to Yam, you've got to crack a few omelets. You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Well, we kind of step into a little bit of Dunning-Kruger here, because this is where someone who is like, who is actually like intellectual, who is hardworking, who has some smarts about them, won't be so cocky or arrogant to go around saying, I'm an Albert Einstein and everyone should bow down before me kind of thing. They'll have that realization. It's like, look, I might know a lot of stuff, but there's still a lot I don't know. I can't know everything, obviously, sort of thing. So they're humble, like you were saying before, Win, and they have a bit of humility about them. Whereas someone who is a bit lower down on the scale, and they realize that water boils at 100 degrees C, they think they discovered the key to the universe or something like that. So the more inflated their ego and self-importance rises, it reflects how deep down in their core, which they're trying to hide from it and ignore it, is that abysmal level of shame and, quite frankly, like ignorance. I was going to say stupidity, but I made it a bit softer and say ignorance. So someone who's very ignorant has a tendency to be like, "Oh, I ain't stupid. How dare you? I'm smarter than Albert Einstein. I've got an IQ of 145 or something like that." It's like, I don't think so, but okay, that's what you
People don't have a on like they don't have a control on the volume of their voice. I've found like at times, like it's like they have knowledge that's just waiting to burst forth and then to anyone who's willing to hear it. Whereas like I've noticed a person who's a little bit wiser is a bit more cautious with like how fast they jump into things. Like what comes to mind right now is like Leroy Jenkins from World of Warcraft. Like people that just like jump full on without any plan and just decide to conquer something and or just like leave everybody and go into something without any help, just through like just from being like absent-minded. It's just like that kind of thing is that you see that a lot now with in terms of how overprivileged, or how you said quasi poverty intellectual privileged intellectuals act, as they believe that they are the future. That's what everyone's told them, and so they're the solution. As opposed to like sitting back and waiting to see how a situation resolves itself, they're much more likely to jump in and participate, which I've always thought was interesting. Because like if you want to become if you want to be learned, it doesn't really matter what your specific specialization is. You're going to learn a lot over the course of your life if you would like to learn. It's like you can't. Maybe there's specific things you could fall into that could help prolong your life so you can learn more, and those are through a certain pay that like you can achieve those things by paying like at a cost, and other things are a bit easier to learn.
So
yeah,
what we're discussing in a way, it branches from, so people in this kind of delusional way of looking at things, and they're struggling with life, to not beat about the bush or whatever. They're in a survivalistic mode. People in poverty, people struggling, tend to be susceptible to this, unfortunately. So survivalistic mode, a lack of a sense of security, or they feel insecure, they're impulsive, and by being impulsive, they can't think about the consequence. They haven't got a broad vision of the world. They're narrow, tunnel focused, and because they're tunnel focused, they think they've got broad awareness, but it's only awareness of this narrow field of vision. I mean, they've got huge blind spots, but they're unaware of it. So
they're in the middle of everything.
They're in the middle, right? And the impulsivity. So they're living in the here and now. They can't think about the past, so they can't have any appreciation for what led up to where they are, or someone's journey into a field of expertise. That doesn't really, you mean it's like 10 years of study before you even get a trainee position? Hell no, kind of thing. It's like, well, that's what it takes. It's like, no, I'm entitled. I shouldn't be a trainee. I should be the lecturer. It's like, whoa. You're not even, so again, but blind spots, they don't realize, they don't see the disparity between the two kind of thing, and it's just the amount of kind of problems that engulfs this type of person. Where you've got the victimhood, you've got the grandiosity, you've got the emotional thinking. They're not using critical thinking. They're not using logic really. They're probably going to be using a lot of shaming language and tactics and manipulations and bullying. A lot of anger probably as well. A lot of
And
hatred or contempt.
imagine a person like that had an audience or had any sort of understanding of like their audience, they'd be flipping traditionally, you know, taboo or frowned upon things, or they would always take the contrary position because they're looking to bankroll off of disenfranchised people. Like being a person that has no power, once you get that platform, you're gonna be trying to like get as many people who feel that same anger that you have in order to join your side essentially, and to be
Yeah.
on your team.
Yeah, they start becoming more and more cult-like because instead of having self-esteem generated from within themselves, they're getting it from other people. So they're reliant on other people. It's like they can't be that brain surgeon unless someone else gives them the job. They can't be a victim unless someone has victimized them. So we see this over-reliance on the external world or people.
And I'm gonna apply this gamer logic to the real life. You can't play in the freaking match if you can't get into the lobby. And I'm gonna elaborate on that one. If a field of profession is top heavy, is full, you're not gonna get into that. You're gonna have to literally fight your way into that profession.
Mhm.
That's basically it's not, you're going to have to struggle, and if you do not have the fight to do that, to get into there, you're not going to get into it. And even if when you get into there, you still have to fight, you still have to claw your way there.
Yeah, and that's the problem there.
Yeah, and it's like you're in a place where nobody wants to give up their position, you know. I mean, including the new guy. The new guy they will all, like in a medical profession. I'm almost certain that they try to sabotage people's careers before they even take off.
Some people might try and help and be like, "Okay, you're new into the field. You know, we'll help you out." But what tends to happen is that this other person isn't looking for an assistance to get them into that field. They're looking for their mentor, so-called mentor, or whatever, to basically do the work for them, to hold their hand all the way through. So it's like, I'm going to scream and yell at you to get this position because I'm entitled to it. I'm going to use aggression. I'm going to force you to give it to me, but I'll make you feel bad about it if you don't, or I'll shame you, or I'll blame you. You're abusing me. So you better give me this position. So I'm going to twist your arm, giving it. And once I get this position, I expect you to do the work at the same time.
Exactly. Well, and you know, and that attitude does not work. That type of attitude does not work in trades.
What I've learned is, like, unless you're really passionate about leading in your field, like any promotion or title is just our handcuffs to you being able to actually do any work, or to have to be able to have any responsibility, because the responsibility falls on the lowest hanging position. And it's like that for the longest time, you're stuck in a mental prison almost, because you're like, you want to achieve, but yet the higher you rise, it's almost like you're barred from achieving anything like really significant, because like what you said, it gets crowded or gets lonely at the top.
And when you try and when you
and like what Billy said in the previous stream, you got to grow it. You kind of grow with people around you, but the higher you go, or the higher that you place yourself in your own head. If it is something where if the job analogy doesn't necessarily like apply to someone, think about it as though you're stuck in your mom's basement and you don't have a job and you don't have anything. And the more you sort of like elevate yourself above other people in terms of like how much work, how
So
much
you're in need.
life other people have to experience at, like and how little you actually do get to experience by not refusing to take any like risks, real risks to your to your social standing, to your physical well-being, like
To
I
your
said,
mental well-being.
to your self-aware. Yeah, because people who sit inside and don't work or don't do anything all day, they're aware to the point of psychosis. It's just like they're so little that they actually have to focus on, that they just drive themselves crazy based on not
Because they're living in their own heads.
yeah.
Like, and it's
And
like,
but I mean, it's a common phenomenon. But if you develop the ability to acknowledge, like, I need to occupy myself in order to combat that thing that happens to everybody. It's like everybody goes through that. And I think that the lack of knowledge that everyone goes through that allows for these types of thinking that you're seeing nowadays, where self-esteem is not the number one priority in people's lives. So there's very little motivation to do anything because there's no need for self-esteem. There's no need for everything is in place to protect that person from seeing who they really are. And in a way, men are kind of running. We're kind of very shy, or at least we're very like men are not exactly geared to break that kind of like have that emotionally support people in that way, that like it takes so much it takes so many resources to actually sit a person down in a comfortable environment and break it to them, break uncomfortable truths to them. Because if you just do it randomly if you just do it in a random area with no foresight, you could cause like a lot of destruction. Like, look at what happens to these guys who end up becoming shooters. It's because they have had so much they've had so many of these red pill experiences, quote unquote. And they've had so many of these like ideas forced on them, and to the point where it's not been in the right environment. Not somehow all this information has not been given to them in the right package, so to speak. And so now it's just, now they feel like they have no other recourse but to like do these terrible things. And that's why, and I think that shows that you can't just, it's like that meme, one does not simply take the red pill. One does not just simply red pill somebody else, which used to be a big thing up until a lot. Like, you used to hear that all the time. Oh, I red pilled so and so, or I've been red pilling people at my job every day. I red pilled people. It's like that title and stuff is like it's almost detrimental to a point, because I feel like you're just making yourself into more of a target. You're not really giving people introducing them to the information the right way, because it's coming from you. It's like it's all dependent on the source. If they don't respect you, then the red pill that you're giving to them, they're probably not going to swallow it. They'll probably like take it in front of you just to show you that they took it, but they'll like keep it under their tongue and then they like spit it out like a plan B or something. It's just like that. That's what I see most of.
the thing is,
like social contract, social behavior is like people like, yes, yeah, I believe in the red pill. Meanwhile, they're not really even swallowing it. They're just like keeping it. They're making
cheeking it.
it that,
The thing
yeah.
is, like,
Everybody asylum in there. We're all forced to take our medication, and like some people don't.
for me, it's like I typically do not want to. I mean, I don't want to red pill people.
Mhm.
I don't want to red pill people. Especially if they're happily
He
married.
didn't like force Neo to take the red pill. He gave him a choice. He
I
like
I
Neo is right now.
Me, I would be a terrible Morpheus because I'm not, like I said, because I'm not, I'm going to try to withhold
Pretty good,
that
more.
knowledge. 'Cause some people don't need that knowledge, you know? Some people don't. Some people that knowledge will turn them into a more destructive person. And that's one of the reasons why like literally people have to twist my arm to get it out of me. Because I will literally say, you don't need that knowledge. You don't need it.
I mean, imagine
Or
that. Like, you have this in live stream, so no doubt it's happening in real life. Like, people will ask each other, like, just in the middle of a conversation, like, "Are you red pilled?" Like, it sounds asinine or sounds like innocuous, but it's almost like really screwed up. Because what you're
people,
doing
yeah,
is instead of offering somebody a choice of how they get to view a situation, you're prompting them to label themselves with something that already has a bunch of
the
prescribed
thing
meanings,
is,
goals, aspirations, like scary stories and stuff. And so,
a lot
like,
of people, yeah,
ask somebody if they are that, especially like in a
it's
public setting, a public
it's
area.
it's basically it's a threat. No, it's a kind of a threat.
It's
The
like the
way I
Scarlet
see it,
Letter almost. It's like, are you guilty? It's like asking somebody to confess to something that they didn't
right?
commit.
It's like the Salem witch trials, which would be a better analogy. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
The thing
because
is,
as much as you don't want to admit it, a lot of people who are preach the red pill are also are also the people that are the arbiters of what is red pill and what isn't. It's not like the red pill is like some objective thing, and like
Yeah.
everybody kind of it's almost like a masquerade because everybody when they in this red pill thing, it's like this so-called red pill thing that we've come up with in order to understand a specific like
they
aspect
don't
of life.
live it.
It's all a mask. It's all like, oh, okay, yes, I'm red pill or I'm MGTOW. So now let me go into this setting. Oh, ho, ho, what do we have here? A person who is different than me. They make it their job to kind of like gaslight people, I've noticed, where they'll say like, oh, you live with your parents. Oh man, I can't imagine what that's like having, me having my whole place to myself being a MGTOW. It's like
Yeah, but
already
it's like
they're
a
already
permanent
shaming somebody. Yeah.
it's like a permanent case of your parents went home on vacation, went off on vacation, and ain't come back yet. For the most part, but then eventually the lackluster wears off, and then you're like, I'm bored. I don't know what to do. Or something that used to get done is like now I have to figure out how to do this. The thing is like it's like you should. For me, it's like it's it's dangerous to red pill people. You know, especially. I mean, 10 years ago, it might not be so dangerous to red pill people. 20 years might be a little bit more safer. But today, it is dangerous, incredibly dangerous. And it's like, I mean, a lot of these young men cannot take the red pill, you know, should not be taking the red pill because they don't have the emotional stability to be taking it. Now, I respect them if they take it and they're in control of it, of themselves, and they understand the consequences of their actions, or they're not going to fly off the handle. I can respect them, you know?
Yeah.
Anybody under the age of
It's
20,
like with the topic when with like gender studies, like
sure, you can get a
decide to
study.
be, but what responsibilities come with assigning yourself a bachelor's degree or a scholarly degree in the field of gender studies,
You basically have responsibility if anything gets jacked up. If anything gets jacked up, you're responsible. At
Mhm.
any age, you are responsible. You are now a responsible adult. Welcome to the adulting world. Well, because now if there's a brain surgeon, somebody you fix this quarter stent going into somebody's head or fix a stroke, and this person dies of an aneurysm, and it's around the area, you get blamed for it. If you're an aviation mechanic and the plane goes down,
Yeah,
you're responsible for it.
ideally how they how they do portray it, or how they should portray it if they don't, is that it should just make you a more well-rounded person. You know, you could
You're
work
paying
any
for more. Yeah,
with a
right.
gender studies degree, because all that you claim to have studied in school was the
Let me
aspect of gender, which is kind of just like
the aspect.
a general thing. It's not really very specific. Like you could say, "Oh, I wrote a paper about, you
The
know,
thing
Aladdin versus Lion King and the gender roles or something," and then
is,
people could say, "Oh, ooh, what a great, you know, ideas." You know,
the
that's
thing
pretty
is,
much the extent that you see nowadays. Like no one like what exactly it cuts, like what
what
exactly a gender studies degree
what
qualifies
should be what I'm gonna go. What should be taught and what is taught. What should be taught is the biological differences between men and women. You do not in men and women or female and female animals. The roles of the animals in the animal kingdom of the animal society. How the dynamics between the genders, men and women. What is taught now? I could be anything. I could be any daggone thing that I want to be. We just want, and we should basically have affordable reassignment surgery
right. But yeah,
at young ages, at birth. You know, parents
but yeah,
get to choose their children's genders.
in order to be in order to be like a gender studies major, you have to you have to be well versed in all different subjects, like because gender is not just confined to one discipline. I mean, in order to study gender, you'd have to know something about the physical world to know the difference between what you're to be able to identify what you're looking at, or how you're interacting with somebody, or how somebody is wanting to be interacted with. You know, as a gender studies degree, you know, a recipient, you'd have to be well versed in science, you know, math, at least English, the language that you speak in that country that you're learning about gender. That's how gender is most likely often often communicated, is through language. And so, but nobody really values having all of those different facets in order to understand it. They rather just hear from the gender studies department what exactly is the thing that they need to know, because no one has any prior experience that make them feel like they should really study this and really study it and become a scholar through the process of studying it. Because most people, what you notice is through studying gender, they don't become a gender studies expert. They become like some they become somebody in society that now has like a self righteous and thinks they know more about somebody more knows more about what somebody's gender is than the next person. And it's not healthy. It doesn't look good either. You see,
It
like,
doesn't
it
work.
doesn't look good for your alma mater, for you to be like just like an entitled brat after you graduate because you have a gender studies degree. It's like, well, I don't think that men and women. It's like it's not that you didn't need to go to college in order to become, you know, entitled and to become a know-it-all. You know, I think that shows that people have really like the wrong motivations for going to college, for going to school. Like, they're funneled into it by their parents and by their
Teachers.
secondary, yeah, education system. It's just like they're just funneled into it, and then they're like, oh yeah, I want to learn about gender. You know, it doesn't build people in a stronger uh, people who can address the world's problems. It's like, oh, that problem is irrelevant because it's coming from a man. Okay, but what are we going to do about, you know, plumbing? What are we going to do about the economy? What are we going to do about building this house for this person? You know, it never occurs to them. And because it's not important. It's not important. There's something else that that they have come up with that's more important than some of these like essential everyday skills that need to be learned. And it's like it is it's whatever they say. I think it sucks because if I want to learn something, I don't want to be the the sole arbiter of what it is I'm learning, because then I have nothing, I have no direction to pursue higher learning, because I decide what it is, what's true and what's not. It makes no sense to pursue something if you can just say you can just describe how you feel, and that's the truth, you know.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah.
but that's the world we live in. That's the
Mm.
world we live in.
Yeah, it would be, it's just like it doesn't make sense that and like I said, like I would jump, any conservative would jump on the opportunity to blame gender studies people for causing something or for doing something, but I just see them as it's just very irrelevant. They're very just like in the wind and not really doing anything very important. You know, and if they are, it's because it's not because they, or it's in spite of the way that the institution would like them to be. It's almost, and I just take that from, because I graduated from a liberal with a liberal arts education, and it's like I don't even I attribute it to largely to like my, because obviously I use big words, but it's like it's almost like you have to work against the fact that you went to college, as opposed to it be actually like springboarding you into a higher position. And like I kind of like praise people that that just like, you know, have their degree and they take it, they immediately, you know, find something that applies to it, and they like just go after it, you know. I kind of praise them, but at the same time I'm also like a little bit hesitant to praise that kind of behavior, because it just seems like they were funneled into primary education, funneled into secondary education, funneled into school, then funneled into their dream job for the rest of their life, and then funneled into it's like it just seems like a never ending process. Where do you have time to think critically about what it is you actually want to do? You know, but I think there's a limit to that too. Like, you don't want to just be sitting and thinking forever. You know, but it just seems like what the experience of going to school nowadays is like, to me, it's just so traumatic and jarring that it's taken me a while to just process it all. Like, wait, what did I really just witness? You know, everybody in orientation, we were taken to this play, and we had to sit there and watch these people come back from a dorm party, and the guy was just like, you know, getting handsy with a girl, and she thought that she thought that she should have left, but she was really drunk, and this is all like a play, it's all set up, and then, you know, we're encouraged to participate and like say what we think is going on in the situation. Like that has nothing to do with with like what it is we're like in college to do. You know, it's like completely deflection. It's like, yeah, we know that you're here to learn, but also sometimes these kind of stuff can happen, and how are you going to deal with it when the opportunity comes? It's like almost like they're like fear mongering us. They want us to get into these weird sexual situations with people at school. It's almost like learning is not the primary goal of going to these schools. You know, if partying is like part of the curriculum of the orientation curriculum, just seems kind of like strange that they would highlight that, as opposed to, I don't know, something more in the disciplines of what, like in the syllabus. You know, it just seems like a really odd diversion.
Not that odd. Remember going back to victimhood and emotions being the primary motivator, then that's why
Like
gender
that,
studies.
that play probably fueled a lot of people to pursue a gender studies degree after they saw, because that hit you at a time where you're very unsure, you're just like doing your general credits, or you haven't even started classes yet. So it's like, if I just went to college because my mom told me to, and that's the first thing that I saw, and I was kind of a portly, misshapen, whatever gender I thought that I was, then maybe I might decide that that's like a important, you know, use of my time. And they're capitalizing on that, because most people would just drop out. Like, without that play, most people are going to drop out, and they're just going to get a regular job, or they get pregnant and they have to do, or they do something. But with that, with the college, just ever so slightly nudging them in a certain direction, they're much more likely to stay. They're much more likely to just panic. Like me, the last 4 years of my education, I was just panicking. Like not because I wasn't gonna be all right, but like regardless, like I was like working. I would like, does it matter that like whatever degree I get, if I can't get a job in that field, it's not gonna matter to me. I've eliminated that as affecting me on a personal level. Like, you see people getting really beat up about that, but barring all that, it's like, if somebody gets really upset, like because they didn't get a job in their field, like that's one thing. But um sorry, what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, like if you can like take all of these college experiences and sum them up, like for me, it was just like I don't even know, like incredulity, almost. Like, I have no idea what this is all like, what the purpose of this is. And I don't know, like, maybe I didn't talk to enough people, maybe I didn't like go to enough social, or maybe I wasn't a part of enough social organizations. Maybe I should have joined 5 more, in addition to the 10 that I was already in. But it just seems like they're, for because I witnessed a lot of people going through, like, trying, like, it was all undergraduate, but I witnessed a lot of people that wanted to pursue it further. So in a way that they, like, you could tell that they wanted to apply themselves. They wanted to work really hard, like way harder than I was willing to work. And so then those people kind of faded in the background, and I just started to focus on people that were going to be out in 4 years and were way more confident than I was. Like, I was like, what is it about these people that is so interesting to me? Like, they're just like, we are the new generation. It's just like, I've never had that feeling that, like, I'm going to affect change in the here and now. I mean, I learned a lot, but definitely not
Yeah,
to affect,
yeah.
things
Just
that
just think about it. Listen, just think about it. Now, if you would have joined 5 more social groups, what would have that would have tired you out? That would have burned. That's how burnout begins. It's like you would have been mentally weak and susceptible to whatever programming they're pushing. And five more clubs.
like,
Well,
progressive students would come and they would ask how is it at college.
the
And
progressive.
prospective students would come and they would say, like, how, like, they would be like, how is it to be going to school? And I always wanted to just say, it's terrible, like, don't even bother. Like, it's because you're not going to understand. If you really want to apply yourself and learn, like, there's too many opportunities here. Like, you're much better off getting a trade job that's regulated, so you're not allowed to be exposed. You're not allowed to be exposed to the trade as often as is available. Like, there's always a toilet that needs plunging, but if you spend your whole entire time learning how to plunge toilets, you're gonna go crazy. But that's what it is. That's what's out there. And if you're like, if you're not like trained from an early age to be able to like regulate your interaction with that, you just like when I was in school, there was just like limitless. Like I could go. You could go to church from you could go to church like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from Monday to Sunday. You could be in a lab all that in the entire time. You could be partying the entire time. You could be procrastinating and hanging out and talking to friends the entire time, which is what most people did. So but yeah, I just noticed the burnout came for me much like quicker. Like it pretty much creeped up on me the first year that I was there. Whereas a lot of people did more than me and were less burnt out. I don't know. Maybe I was just getting my validation from the wrong sources or something, or I was pursuing something. It just I don't know. It just my experience felt more purposeful than what I saw most people doing. Whereas they just kind of like bull rushed it. They were out and it like must have passed by super fast. But for me, it was just like slogging. It was like every day. It was almost like I was in survival mode. It was almost like that. That was the mentality. And so, like, if you go through school in survival mode, how are you going to be able to market what you learned in a place that is not, it doesn't care about survival mode? That's just about getting a specific job done. It's almost like it's strange, and that I was like pretty much the person in class that would just break the truth, be honest, and it would piss everybody off. And then I would just fudge this because like my assignments were never exactly what the assignment said to do. Because it wasn't a good, in my opinion, it probably wasn't a good enough assignment.
You didn't agree with it. You just flat out, you didn't agree with it.
Yeah, I just didn't. I couldn't apply myself because it was like, describe in 5,000 words why 1 + 1 = 4. And I'll just be like, well, doesn't make sense, but I'll try. And like, I don't know. Every single time I try to think of like, I want to try harder in school, I always think about the way that it's set up which is to confuse you. And so I think like, what's better, relying on people in YouTube to teach me things, like to open my eyes to things, or trying to go do the whole school thing again. It just seems like a way more efficient use of my time to maybe try to learn with something before spending all that money to like go and maybe learn something. That's just the possibilities are really like, in my opinion, they just don't. It doesn't seem worth it. But then again, like, what do I know? I wasn't the guy. I'm not the guy to be giving advice about going to college because I just did it. But I wish I was the kind of person that actually did, like, was successful in that sense, because then I probably would have less to worry about. Like that's just my perspective. It's like, oh my God, I'm still worried about bad grades I got, 5 or 6 years ago. Because it's I must value it more than the people who don't even think about it and are just living their best life right now. Because it just didn't matter to them as much as it mattered to me. Yeah, and that like that the gender studies becomes like a whole entire topic for me, because it boils down to how much more, how am I going to sit here and minimize gender studies when most people can't even find a good job with actual, it's an actual discipline. They're still living with their parents, or they're still grinding, or they're still like no one is really going to be special. It's very rarely are people actually going to create something very, very good with what they like with how they tried to learn something. It's like, even with the best teacher, with the best, the highest level of devotion to learning and all this stuff, it's like your kid could still turn out really dumb and relatively insignificant. It's just it just seems like it's all chance. It's all up to chance. Like a stream, like these streams, for example. It could be a great stream. It could be a crappy stream. How do I determine whether or not it's going to be good? It's like then there's like entrepreneurs that'll tell you, if you write down every action that you did for 12 days and you just meditate on all those things, then you can design it to where you never have a bad day, or you only have very few bad days. And it's like, well, then what did you learn if you had no bad days? Like, how did you learn anything if you optimize your life for success? How are you going to learn? If it's like, okay, I'm just I did a bunch of work and now I'm ultra successful all the time.
Yeah.
Well, now it just sounds like living life on easy mode. Why would you?
It just all I do is win, win, win.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Just like what?
Earlier on in the conversation, that you need that contrast.
The contrast. Contrast of what?
Or like having a day that sucks, or not winning.
Days suck, because days that go good, I feel guilty, or and not like days, just normal days, but days that go really good, it's like you have to be worried on those days. I actually feel better if, like, for example, like at work, because that's the main thing that I do. It's like, if I eat shit at work and I get destroyed at work, like that's the best day, because it's one, it stands out, which shows you my level of performance, which shows myself my level of performance.
Basically,
day sucked, it would be, if every day was terrible, then I wouldn't like impact. I wouldn't feel it. It'd just be like every day was bad.
You can have a bad day, but still have appreciation for it.
Right. And the thing is, like, when you're like, for the longest, like, I'm still used to, I mean, for me having a decent paying job, I'm still getting used to things going right, because you're just literally looking for something to go wrong, but
it's like it's like when you'll date a girl and she's like, I like you, but I'm just waiting for something to be messed up. It's kind of like, it's weird. It's like almost super grounded and like delusional all at the same time. It's like, well, how exactly is something going to go wrong if you just, of course something's going to go wrong if you just sit and observe it the entire time.
Watch a pot never boils.
But then what is the goal of life? What is the goal in that sense? Is it to see something bad, or is it to enjoy the time that you have while nothing is wrong at the moment?
That's the question. That's a good question.
I think it depends. Like, I think, like, in terms of dating, there's been so many different rules that people have come up with. Like, if he does this, then it's a red flag. If he breathes, it's a red flag. If he bleeds, it's a red flag.
If he's if he's in a casket, it's a red flag. Well, of course, if he's in a casket, it's a red flag because he's dead.
But then
the question is the thing.
But if you can get a woman to ignore all of that and just submit to you, does it really feel like you earned it? Does it really feel like you can trust that woman to be, if she just ignores all of the outside stimuli? It's kind of like when we admonish men in the manosphere for just no self-awareness and just
in order to basically both you have to base when you're meeting a person, you have to start from day one. You have to start from the base. First off, we all gotta understand that we are all human beings. Like just because this person has we start from the base, not from the red flags or from this else. We have to start from the base, from the ground up. That's the problem. Men and women are starting from the pinnacle, from the peak down. Men or women are building in reverse. They're building from the top down, and that is not going to sustain anything. If
they're starting from a place of idealization. So
exactly, right.
Unicorns
and it's like by them saying it, by the more men that more terrible men and women that each party interacts with, it compiles and it begins to compile into your expectations into this next person that you're supposed to be trying to work together with, instead of saying, okay, these people did this. This person in front of me, this individual, this human being, this man, this woman in front of me is not these people, are not these men or women. You know, they've.
But also isn't it wiser? This is gonna sound weird, but isn't it wiser than to just assume that if a couple's not meant to be, in that it is systemically, it might just be a problem.
It's a good learning experience. Yes.
Because I've been in a relationship where there's no amount of accountability that you can take that's going to salvage the relationship. It's not a bad. I mean, it may not be a bad pairing of two people who are dedicated to something, but it's also the environment, just the situation. It's not going to work.
It's a good lesson to learn. It's a good lesson to learn. Yeah. You know, a good lesson to learn beats a terribly taught. Let me say this: a terribly taught lesson beats not learning at all. You know, a terribly taught lesson beats not learning at all.
I'll give you another reason. It's good
because I would much rather have gone through the experience I gone through when, in terms of school, even though it was hard, than to just assume that just assume the same.
Now
of experience without actually going through. Like, oh, don't like college sucks. Have you been to college? No, but it's just you go there, you don't even learn anything. But it's like me, it's like college sucks, man. I went there and I didn't learn anything. Like that feels better, resonates more with me because I actually did it, as opposed to just like resentful and bitter.
The thing is, what I'm trying to say is like, they're all good lessons to learn, to understand, but the thing is like people take it too far. People take the red flags entirely too far. Yeah, this person has like said, oh, this person did this, just one thing on this red flag list, and now I'm basically cutting him or her off. Okay, this next person did one thing over here, and now they're cut off from me. The thing is like, the thing is like both parties need to grow,
but also you don't want to grow so much to where you like have this opinion like I just shouldn't be with anybody because I know myself way too well.
The thing is I understand that, but the thing is, it's like it's a possibility. I mean, I'm not saying that I just can't be. I'm saying that is. All right, you go ahead.
Well, I'm just playing devil's advocate because it's just like, as at a certain point, yeah, you're gonna need to grow, and you're gonna need to like know yourself, but then you could also like kind of talk yourself into being.
The thing is like you have to have an understanding that there's a possibility that you're not going to be able to find somebody. it's a possibility. Now, I understand. Like I said, the thing is growing. It's basically at a certain point it becomes for yourself. You know, it becomes for yourself once you grow. But so far, when you like, you're not gonna get an apple out of an apple orchard out of a sapling. You're not gonna get fruit out of a sapling. You have to basically let the tree grow to maturity. You know, that's when you start bearing fruit. And when you bear fruit, that's when the creatures start gathering around you and stop chewing on your leaves. Your goal is to get to the point where you can actually bear fruit for your surroundings, for your surrounding ecosystem. Like when a tree grows, deer, you will gather fruit to be born. Like that is why you are growing for yourself, you know, so that you can hopefully bear edible fruit, you know. And when you bear it, let's say, yes, the possibility that fruit is just going to fall on the ground and go to waste, that's a possibility. But
Yeah, I agree.
that's a possibility.
It's almost like that's the ideal outcome, right? Because if you, as a fruit, if you seed the ground, like in a sense, like if you're eaten, that's, I guess, nature intends for as well. But also, if you fall to the ground, there's also potential you can seed, spawn something new in that aspect too. Like there's I guess there's like, in a sense, there's a dual function. There's two uses.
You're fertilizing the ground with your fruit.
You can fertilize the ground, or you could feed somebody. You could feed somebody something else in the here and now. You know,
Right.
Where one has like a long-lasting impact or impact later. There's another one that can like serve somebody right now.
Right.
And I think a lot of the stuff what I'm going through is like a lot of the stuff that I did in fact learn, but I wasn't indoctrinated. A lot of the stuff that I did learn is having a delayed effect almost. It's like it was planted. All the seeds were planted, when I saw so and so like puking and being like, oh damn, I'm never gonna get like that again. I'm just now starting to bear fruit, because if the seed wasn't planted back then when I was in school, then maybe I would still be up to the shenanigans and stuff now. But I don't know. It's like, it's hard to be really definitive about what it is that you learned or not, because of the constant like gaslighting and just the just having to beg for validation and stuff, like from things, instead of just being able to be okay with where you're getting, recognize when you're getting it, almost, for me. Because for me, like being a performer, being like a thinker and stuff, like when I get feedback from people, it's always, to me, it's always like tainted or biased, or it's from there. You always have to take positivity and validation with like a grain of salt, because it's like there's always a reason why somebody's validating you, and there's always a reason why someone isn't either. So it's just like being able to discern the difference between, oh, okay, that person doesn't really feel like contacting me anymore, or that person doesn't feel like participating in this situation anymore, and just not taking that personally. It's like something that takes time to deal with. Because I got to be careful not to just push everything off and be arrogant in terms of like, oh, they must just be stupid, like this whole entitlement we've been talking about is like, there's a very fine line between recognizing your self-worth and just being arrogant. So it's just, I don't know, like it's very, to me, it's easier to recognize like your self-worth if you're not trying to become that, like the alpha. Because when you're trying to become the alpha, it's just all about validation. And I'm personally afraid of validation because I get bored easily. So I don't like I don't like people getting used to validating me because I won't respond amicably after a while. Because after just constant validation, you just get bored. It's like when you're with a girl and she just wants to cuddle all the time. It's like, yeah, there's a time and place, but it's not meant to you're not just meant to, that's not all that you're meant to do as a couple. There are other things, that you have to like intentionally do. Like, okay, we got to go out. We got to go do this. We got to go do that. So it's just my phone's getting low on battery too. I have to plug in real quick here. Hold on. Give me a second. So yeah. Where did we leave on the topics? Did we get through the second one? I feel like we did. Oh, modern inventions. Yeah, like that's kind of, I mean, the whole entitlement thing kind of bleeds well into the next topic because there's so many modern inventions nowadays that just basically are there just to make people comfortable, not to advance society at all. If you've ever noticed, like, I know in the manosphere we talk about female inventions, but nationalism, like nationalism is like the word nation itself hasn't been used to describe any area like back before when actually there was more stability to the way that realms were managed, whereas like now you have transitions of power every 4 years, and yet people still consider themselves a part of a nation, which has all these different interpretations and underlying cultural things to like pay attention to and be aware of. And you have like people saying, oh, when you're here in America, speak English, because that comes down to that's our culture. That's our pride. We pride ourselves in like sharing a language. And so like a lot, like for one thing, a lot of the things that we've invented like to describe stuff is because we're so scared of what it would be, of what things would be like if we couldn't really describe them. It's like I think Wynn mentioned it earlier when we were talking about genders, like the old gender studies and everything else we were talking about, is like the fear of the unknown is very real, people. And we invent things out of sheer paranoia. Like we just create all these different things, like all these different titles, all these different labels and stuff, because we just need to define what it is we're like, we have to like justify what we're doing right now to other people. So it's just a lot of this stuff is irrelevant. Like I just feel like a lot of the stuff we could do away with it if we could, if it's as helpful to the situation here as it is absent, then why should I rack my brain trying to like work up the courage to pursue that thing if my life's going to be the same with or without it? Am I being gaslit? It was like, is it true that most of the modern thing, like inventions in society, really don't make a difference? Or that's the thing, that's the attitude that you get most oftentimes, because like women interpret the way that I talk to be like complaining, like you're just complaining. Stop being so negative. It's like that's like, they're just like, just go in the moment, go work out, just be. There's nothing unknown about what it is I'm saying. I'm being honest. Like I'm just being honest about my own thoughts. But it seems to people for them to want to fix the way that I think by assigning something like, oh, you just don't really have pride in anything. You're not passionate about anything. You just need to boss up. You just need to level up. That way you don't have to, worry about any of this stuff. It's just like, that's interesting. Like if I do that, then like what will you have to, like, who will you try to like be on, who will you try to help if I change, the fact that I like overthink and stuff. Like I don't know, they don't like people to overthink. I've learned that like people don't want too much thinking to be happening around them. Like they would prefer
the thing
that
is like
I did it out of the presence.
the thing is it's easier for them to try to fix than to try to learn. It's easier for them to fix than to try to think.
I'm not really offering up anything for them to learn by just talking about my ideas like to them. Like they're like, well, like I had this one person tell me once that the stuff that I talk about on my channel, everybody already knows. So what's the point?
Do they?
Yeah, well, it's common sense. It's like, don't get into bed with the wrong person because it can ruin your life. Okay.
But yet we have people getting into bed with the wrong person.
Yeah, but I'm overthinking it. I'm just like, I overthink it by maybe it's just because I don't do series and I don't put my videos into playlists and I'm not organized and it's like that would remove all the authenticity from my channel. Like if I just like said, okay, this video goes into this category and this video goes into this category, I wouldn't really even feel welcome on my own channel because that's not how I compile my thoughts. I don't put all my thoughts into like a box and just repress them and forget about it. And like, oh nope, I don't like want to talk about that. That's in that box and that box is closed right now. I'm only talking about this stuff in this box.
The thing is, information has to be sought out. Information has to be sought out. And they don't want to speak the information out. See that they're saying these things like it's common sense, but yet the thing is like we got people that are doing the things that you're talking about. So it can't be common sense to some people. The thing is like these people don't understand. They really don't. It's easier for them. Look, you point out things that you like me. You point out things that are bullcrap. You point out the things that are bullcrap, and you voice your opinion on it. Like,
yeah, well, I just don't participate in it. Where like a lot of people just like to listen to people point out bullcrap, which I don't even like to do. Like I cut you off all the time when you're pointing bullcrap out because it's just not that it's not that deep. It's not that engaging. I realize I have a fear I bore people because when I'm pointing out bullcrap, it's like instinctual. It's like what you said. It's like I just do it, and then other people see me do it, and they're like, "Ooh, let me try to do that."
And the funny thing about it is, the other people see me do it, and they put me on a pedestal.
Yeah, it's like I don't even try to do this. I just do this, okay? And like right. That's not to crap on people that are the different type of thinking where they like say, okay, here's a plan. I'm going to execute the plan. This, that, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a totally different way of thinking, and it has its own merits, you know. Like, but for me, my problem is just like a lot of the stuff I do is just like muscle memory and absent-minded and kind of instinctual. What's up, Shinobi Wan? I was up, Corey Steele. I didn't say hi to Totally Not Mega Man when he was in here, but hello, Totally Not Mega Man. But it's just like that. That's the kind of stuff that puzzles me, and then that I get all the time, like when you know that you are like this, you just assume that people are gossiping about you, because I don't really get a chance to talk to somebody, to intentionally talk to somebody. Like, I already have the heuristic of not initiating conversations or initiating like big gregarious, you know, types of behavior. Like I would I would be social, but I'm not going to like do the keg stand, okay? Like that's just not. I'm not gonna be like, let's do a keg stand. You know, I might could just wander into a keg stand. That's basically my mode. But in any place where spontaneity is not accepted, which is a lot of places, it's like they like, how can he live like this? You know, it's just like that's the modern day does not allow for people to properly address somebody like me. You know, they always are just had to be confused. It's like I feel bad for people because they're like confused by me most of the time, and I don't know what it is, or I don't know like exactly what's the trigger of it. So a lot of time I just take personal accountability and personal responsibility for it. Like, oh, I pissed this person off, when it might not even be me that's triggering that. It's just relating what I witness to how I understand other people, my limited understanding of other people, like the things about like psychology and stuff and social that I like seek out to learn to try to help inform the way that I act is all I have. That's all I have. I don't have a plan. I don't have a persona. I don't have a like, okay, when I leave the house, if anybody tries to do this, I'm going to hit them with this part of my personality. It's like I don't have that. I don't have the arm. I don't have like the armor, you know. It's like I'm a snail without a shell.
That may make you a slug.
Yeah, it's like I'm a slug. I should just call. If I ever my channel ever gets deleted, I'm gonna come back as a slug. You guys will never know that it's me though. You guys will never.
You know, if my channel gets deleted, I'll probably just come back as something unrecognizable. You know.
Well, yeah.
You know?
A mollusk.
A mollusk.
Mollusk.
A mollusk. You know, or I just might be just like a.
That's what I fantasize about. Because I made a move in life and I made a decision, I had conviction. I fantasize about what life would be like if I had no responsibilities. Whereas, like, most people are like, "Oh, I wish I was emperor of YouTube." It's like, I wish that my channel got deleted. Like, that's honestly I'm very much like appreciative of my supporters, but like that's like the bleeding edge brought that thought out of me for some reason. It's just like that's sometimes that thought occurs to me, like, what if I had no responsibilities? Not that I'm on vacation, but just that it's not my job to take responsibility for all the stupidity that's happening. You know, that in the manosphere, and I don't have to always point it out. Maybe somebody else can do it for once.
Right.
And that's what reminds me. I shout out to Big J Triple X because he was streaming earlier, and I told him to shout him out because his name is being used in order to gain clout in another sector by a certain someone. And it goes to show you that not everybody is dedicated to building a following organically, like Wind or like I or like Tico or Billy or anybody that just off the cuff. Like, the only time we ever evoke somebody's name is if they're in the chat or if it's relevant to the topic. Like if they mention something like Dennis, where I bring up Dennis, I've brought up other people in the past that have been on the show. Shinobi One comes in the chat every once in a while. I will mention him, but I'm not going to be like just evoking your name just to get clout on my channel. You know, it's like that wouldn't be if I was caught doing that. I hold myself to a certain standard, but I know other people would hold me to a standard and be like, "Yo,
what you doing there, buddy, big fella?"
Yeah, what are you trying to, who are you trying to clout chase for? And it's like that's like with me just witnessing that had to give him a shout out because he's like people make fun of him. People have made fun of him on my platform, or at least on Tico's platform when he used to do the Blaze. And I never signed off on it, but I do take responsibility for it because the situation came from an idea that I had helped author. So yeah, might as well just admit that.
Right.
Yeah, and like I've noticed it too. Like the things that people put out there are they're kind of waiting to see whether or not it'll be accepted before they really put it, before they like keep it up. Like I feel like people's fingers are just hovering over the delete button of their own material. kind of like we were talking a couple episodes ago, where it's just like, do people really want to improve or get better? If they're like, if they're willing to edit their public persona in that way, yeah. If they're willing to like quit, if they jump immediately to fabricating or omitting parts of their content in order to maintain like a subscriber count or something, or whatever it is they're trying to maintain, can you really like trust that person is willing to improve in all aspects?
That's a good question. That's a daggone good question.
You can't be like preoccupied with improving yourself and also managing other people's impressions of you. I know a lot of people who drive around in fancy cars and stuff and film themselves like to assume or like to like publicly push that image that they're like, I'm the mental point of origin. It's like that's the most cheesiest
bullcrap answer I've ever heard.
Like, Billy, what does psychology say about a person who assumes to be the mental point of their own mental point of origin?
Well, appointed authoritarian. It doesn't just have to be like the focal point of mental health. It could be in any kind of field or so-called expertise, where they are the authority, the one and only with the key to the knowledge. So they hold the power, they hold the control.
So if I think that person is a douchebag, that it's irrelevant to that person and if I share that with 100,000 people, it wouldn't matter because it's not generated from that person's mental point of origin, right?
They probably say like you were jealous of their success or skill or their wisdom. So they'll probably accuse you of trying to bring them down. So in a indirect way, you could be unfortunately helping them, not in a good way helping, but assisting them in self-deluding, because if they chalk you up as being jealous and envious of them, then they'll turn it around and be like, well, that must mean I'm hot stuff. So it's like a doubling down or a confirmation that, yeah, I am.
But right, you're right though, but that only applies if you don't you haven't actively tried to. If that's just who you are, then it should make you feel good that you just piss people off.
Well,
But
you do
you're
get
actively
to,
trying to put out a persona to agitate people, which a lot of people do in Manosphere, and
yeah,
I'm not.
there's
not
some people out there who intentionally try to start fights or have conflict or be aggressive or controversial. They'll try and get themselves banned so that they can say, I've been banned. And because I've been banned, that must mean that my information is deadly stuff. They're trying to censor me, everybody, because it's not because I'm a complete idiot. It's because what I know is too damaging for them. I'm a threat to them. I'm dangerous. It's like, well, I suppose
ain't nobody.
no, not really.
Everybody's got their number. You know, everybody's got their number. You know what I
kind
mean?
of flock to the other platforms to be like, oh, look, they won't accept us. Like that is that's a badge of honor to be shunned by.
What it
And
comes to as well, it's attention seeking. I suppose is it just attention seeking at the core? But that's a definite main, one of the main at least themes or plays that's going on with this kind of self-appointed prophecy or prophet or the master of whatever field of expertise. They are very, very expert. Just being an expert isn't good enough. They are
leaving, right, because of the standards that they apply. Because they're leaving because the platform doesn't meet their standards, right? In a sense, their standards for.
Well, do they actually leave? Because the amount of times people say that, I'm leaving, and then don't actually go. They come back.
Yeah.
So it's all it's black. It's like a woman who's threatening to commit suicide. Yeah. Don't leave me or I'll kill myself. It's like, well, now I'm effed. Now you're making it my responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's that same kind of field of logic where it's like, well, if I tell people that I've been censored and I've had enough, I'm discontent and I'm unhappy. I mean, already I'm getting attention for saying that, but then I make a kind of stunt out of it and maybe disappear for go on a hiatus for a little while. That will get people talking while they're wondering what's happened, what's going on. So yet more attention garnering, and then they obviously want to come back because they want to see the effects or what's happened while they've been away. See, has people been talking about? Did you guys miss me? Kind of thing. Like, oh, you're back. You didn't kill yourself. Oh, we were worried about you, and that's exactly what they want to hear. It's like, oh, I am important then. You guys were worried about me. Oh, I guess I must be special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's
very selfish driven as well, because especially like
the people they overvalue the opinions of people in that group, as opposed to like their own opinion of themselves or people outside the group. And
yeah, because they can't give themselves like validation, so they need other people to validate for them. They're dependent on other people. And being self-reliant, I mean, they despise who they are, really. So forget being self-reliant. But it's more than just being dependent on other people. It's selfishly abusing them. Because imagine that you got someone who's threatening suicide or hiatus, are going to leave. So they're emotionally blackmailing their audience to care. Like, you must care about me because what happens to me is going to be your responsibility. And so they disappear for a little while and they return to sort of see how people are reacted. But what if in the meantime, those people that were abandoned were like, dude, man, we were so worried about you that we actually called out a search party. We hired people, investigators to find out what happened to you and all this. We haven't been sleeping for days. Imagine like to what extent the community could go to if they were genuinely concerned about someone just because they wanted a bit of attention.
Mhm. I wish Rifle's here because he'll be talking about the grifting and how like they condition you to care by Tigo's talked about this too, by the way that they handle problems. Even Traversable has gone down this road too when it comes to pickup artists. And it's not to say that pickup artists don't have a hiatus or they don't threaten to self delete. A pickup artist's main way of kind of like keep conditioning their followers is to show receipts. That's what pickup artists are all about. They're all about talking a big game and following it up with receipts. The main part about it is that they talk the big game.
Yeah,
That's
the drama.
what,
Yeah, emotionally charging people. Emotionally charging is an expression I like to sort of lean into quite a bit because that's one of the sort of red flags. It's like if someone wants to take a break, they want to have a high, like guys, I'm a bit run down, I'm a bit worn out, like next week, bleeding edge red pill. Let's say just hypothetically, I might turn around and be like, look, I'm not going to be around next week. I'm going to take a week off. I'll see you the following week. No big deal,
communicate it.
But if I'm like, oh, guys, you don't understand. I'm so oppressed, and I don't know if I'll be alive next week. You might not see me. You see the difference? It's kind of like, oh,
well, just be safe. Do you need money?
Then I'll just leave you hanging for a whole week, or 2 weeks, in fact, because you won't know until the following week whether or not something did happen or not.
It's like a girl saying, "I need space." It's just like you don't quite understand what it means, but it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, a girl. Look,
for
I'm pissed off today. I don't want to speak to you for the rest of today. I'm gonna do something, whatever. Like I'm gonna stay at my mom.
For me, it's like I'm saying, look, I'm tired. I'm gonna take a hiatus. You'll know when I come back. It might be tomorrow. I'm coming back. But
right,
I'm
like,
tired.
I'll speak to you tomorrow, or I'll speak to you the day after, or I'll send you a text.
Week, month, or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't give them a specific time frame because, well, I don't know when I'm gonna feel motivated to do content.
Well, it's that leaving someone in
limbo.
In limbo, ambiguity, because in not like a dissonance, like they don't know, like, is it not? I don't know where I stand. What's going on? That doubt, because doubt in that sense and limbo is what tears the other person apart. It's cognitive dissonance. So you don't know where you stand. You don't know what's right or wrong. You don't know what's true or false. You don't know if the situation is safe or unsafe. That's a terrible position to be. It would be more kinder to be honest with someone to the extent where it's like, look, everything is safe, or things are not safe. Like let's say they were playing with the idea of committing suicide. I know it's a bit of an extreme, and
say really well. I just say like because you said that like being emotionally available to someone is actually slightly more taxing in the after because simply for the fact that you ignore the possibility that you could not be there for somebody, and like to push yourself to be there and then to take this hiatus. It's kind of like it's kind of like you made a promise to be there and then now you're not. Now the person's left stranded, or like their whole entire self-esteem is based on having you there. So now you're not there, and it's creating. It's like it's more costly for you to be there after having already made that promise. It's kind of like you broke a truce or something.
It's a bit like having a closure. Like it's like, is it you are or you're not? Don't give me this maybe. At least if you are,
Basically don't pillow. Yeah, basically crap or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the bleeding edge will always be the shit, which means we're always going to be on the pot, and we're always going to be crapping.
Just give us a toilet paper. Just supply us with toilet paper.
Kind of funny you guys are mentioning that. I have been actually. Well, next week you'll find a toilet avatar. Spoilers. You guys read my mind.
Bounty the goat. Oh no, that's paper towels. Don't flush paper towels.
Sherman the goat. Or
That's my advice for this week: is to don't flush paper towels. It's a very bad idea.
it messes up your septic. It jacks up your septic system, and it causes all types of pain and suffering for the plumbers. Support your local plumber.
I feel like Mario going into the green pipe every time like I use liquid plumber. Like it just like I feel like a plumber's apprentice whenever I like push and it says like, oh, I need to like put more water because that'll create like the siphoning, mechanism, and like I just feel so smart whenever I do that. I think we were talking about that like
Bleeding edge has become toilet tips.
it will, yeah. Okay, so we were gonna probably end it, but we have to talk about the invention of the red pill on the next episode, or at least more. We should probably go back to the origins or just to understand it more.
Hopefully Tika will have his. I can't. Oh. You want to say, or should I let it leave it alone?
Were you gonna say you hope he has his raggedy ass phone fixed by then?
Yeah, hopefully he has his raggedy ass phone fixed by then.
Yeah, he'll be. Hopefully, him and Rifle will be on by, and they'll be able to add their perspective.
Right? He actually his raggedy ass phone that the screen don't work. But my screen works, Tico. My screen works.
Thank you. But thanks to everybody in the chat that's been here since the beginning, and people now leave a like on your video. And yeah,
Yep.
So do nothing but treat yourself like milk. Do nothing but spread yourself.
Oh, I want to do that, but okay. I would like to thank Barry Benjamin Life, Totally Not MAGA Man, Corey Steele, Shinobi One, Prime Ruler. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we continue these here lessons, and we can enjoy learning off each other. Until the wind's sounding off.
You guys are kind of boycotting music. I'm not too sure what's being said.
Yeah. Maybe if we adjust this volume like to 36, like nothing above. Yeah. It's a learning experience.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I just thought no matter what, it does mask our vocals is what I'm starting to learn. But yeah,
like we'll start the outros from the beginning.
Yeah, just do the outro. Yeah.
Like like I said, I'll start. Basically, that's not a bad thing that they're on strike. Well, that game when you look like a freaking sun bear. But here, this is Red Pill in the Wind. This has been another educational session, not only for the people who are watching this and listening to this, but for us as well. We get to learn about different subjects from as many standpoints as we can find in our heads. And hopefully you'll be able to graduate and be able to find different standpoints in your head. And not only that, be able to grow from each standpoint and become a better person. If not just for you, but maybe for your family and your friends. But always remember, improvement for you is number one. Red Pill in the Wind signing off.
All right. Well, yeah, that means be willing to look at a position that maybe maybe you didn't think of, and that's why we fail to learn most times, and we fail to realize things that get in front of us the whole time. So yes, I guess always be vigilant in that way and discern the truth. Be always looking for just looking for the truth, instead of holding the truth. Maybe it might be something you need to let go, because try it out. Sometimes the truth's not going to save you. Sometimes they say the truth will set you free, but sometimes if you hold on to it, that might be the thing that might bring about an early demise, if you think about it. Because maybe your version of the truth is so heavy that it's literally you're sinking to the bottom of the sea, and the people that are coming by to save you, you're clinging to the truth is going to lead to you not being saved. And so just try to be aware of that and try to combat those forces that might be weighing you down. This is Baron Yam. Like, comment, subscribe. And today I'm Spurt Yam. But thank you for watching. And Billy?
It's okay to feel or to be rejected. It's okay to feel hurt and pain. It can be a teacher. Learn contentment, which in some ways, sorry to throw it back at Yam, but because with contentment, maybe the truth isn't all that necessary. Just a thought, something for you to ponder about. And with contentment will be appreciation and gratitude. So I'll bid ye all a pleasant Sunday evening and a glorious next week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you then.
Thank you. And we are out, guys. That's it.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Perfections, ooh, Sin City, Montana, Coke boys, ooh, we run the city, homie tryna keep up, ooh, they going broke, I'll finish your career, ooh, get a rope,
Warning, 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 warning.
Dope money, ooh,
That Montega,
in the spot, getting guap, ooh,
that's hard labor.
in the club, popping bottles,
Yeah, we blowing that sour.
handful of real niggas,
Rest of these niggas cowards.
how you want it,
How you want it?
hands, gun, or the knife,
Soon as your man see the barrel,
he gon' run for his life,
bullets flying.
bullets flying.
Peace. See you later.